Oh, and here we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. I don't even know where we are. 5 years of this now. And I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. With me, as always, is our marketing director, Jenn Wayboer. Good morning, Jenn.
Good morning, Adam.
Yeah, Jenn, we should have you as a guest on the episode to talk about your recent trials and tribulations.
I mean, we could do that.
Yeah, we may get to that. And Jenn, I did notice last week some really impressive work on all of this. You've really made some leaps and bounds with our little podcast here.
Yeah,
lots of listeners and people listening the whole way through, which means we must not be that freaking boring.
We have listeners in Australia, which I think is really freaking cool.
Listeners in Australia, how bored are they?
Right? Listening to these crazy Americans.
All right, crazy Americans. Speaking of crazy Americans, we have a guest for you people today that is going to top that list. And it's an adult show, right? So I can introduce Joe Fuck Yourself. His real name is Joe Feinhandler, although, and I promise that is a term of affection. In fact, Joe sent me a Hanukkah card late last year whenever the holiday rolled around and actually signed it that way.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm not letting him off the hook of that ever. So, everybody, welcome to the show, or I guess Jenn and I will welcome to the show, Joe Feinhandler. Morning, Joe.
Thank you. Good morning. So we have already started off much differently than I thought this was going to go.
Oh, no, this is how this goes, man. Yeah, absolutely. We's X-rated here.
Yes.
Yeah. That may be the only F-bomb we dropped today, but since it really is kind of your...
That's a proper name, so it doesn't count, right?
Yeah, it's your nomenclature. Absolutely. So, yeah, we're just going to roll with it. So, Joe is kind of I don't want to say a last-minute guest for us. We conned him into doing this a few weeks ago when we had a cancellation. But we're really excited. And I was kind of surprised at the time we talked about it that we hadn't had Joe on the show before. We've been friends for a good number of years. We operate in very similar roles. We run in really similar circles. We're both old and fat and gray. We've got a lot in common.
Yes, we do.
We've got a lot in common. Yes, we have a certain penchant for automobiles, and I'm using that term loosely because it's more like an addiction. How many cars do you own, Joe?
I think I'm up to 8 now.
8? All right. I'm only at 9. So sold one last year, but bought another last year. I don't know. It's crazy. But Joe, tell us about Joe. You've been doing mortgages, since contracts were written on stone tablets.
But pretty much 2002, so 22 decades now.
That's a long stretch. And you are a broker owner.
Broker owner, best equity in California.
And how long have you been a broker owner?
Originally, the first time around was 2005. So started in 2005, jumped on with another brokerage in 2009 when everything was going on with the market, the implosion or restructuring.
Restructuring. That's a nice way to put it. Okay.
So I jumped on with another brokerage. We were bought by a retail operation, and I stayed there for 2 years with them, and then broke off on my own again 3 years ago.
Okay. So I didn't realize it had only been 3 years. That's a pretty short stint considering the volume of success you've had in that time frame.
Yeah, I haven't recruited. I haven't gone out and hired random people. It was just a core group of good loan officers that have been doing the business for a long time and had a great reputation. And we kind of teamed up and we feed off each other, and one of those iron sharpens irons kind of scenario.
Yeah, we're big on that. No question. Well, and when you and I ever get together, I don't know how many times you've purchased a ticket for the Mile High Mastermind and failed to show up. I think
three times.
Three times, because it's the 3 times that I've planned it. Yeah,
okay.
I'm a little offended. I think Joe doesn't want to meet me. So.
Joe may be here this year.
This year's on. This year's on.
Right.
So,
all right. And we've done some other events with some other people that we run in the same circle with, and that's a very iron sharpens iron kind of group. So that kind of thing certainly breeds good work, breeds good friendships, breeds good ideas. And we certainly do episodes talking about how important conference work is and the content and the other attendees, and those are the things that you really need to watch out for. But with what you and I do, it's almost organic that way. It just kind of happens all by itself. So yeah, we're certainly big on that. All right, so let's get into the Wayback Machine here.
All right.
And let's talk about pre-recession, 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6. What did your business look like? I mean, where did it come from? What kind of support did you have? Were you a broker or a banker?
So at first, 2002, got my start. Friend Michael Deary got me in. He was working with HFC, so Household Finance.
I remember.
And so that was in an office, sitting in a cubicle, suit and a tie every day, and making calls for cash out refinances, doing debt consolidations. And it was exclusively all we did was refinances.
Okay.
So a lot of challenge credit people. Rates were 10 point something with 5 points after the California high cost. Before that, it was 7.25 points that was added onto the loan.
Wow.
And it was horrible. I mean, just the experience and having, management on your shoulder and how many calls have you made. And it was hard sales boot camp 101. So
there was a lot of that in that era.
Yeah. And I knew I had to wait a year. So after a year, and I waited a little bit longer than a year, but I actually had a countdown clock in my desk. And so I'd be like, oh, doesn't matter. Only 178 more days and I'm out. But I had to stick with it. It was a thing that I forced myself to do it.
Okay. And there were a lot of people that cut their teeth that way. I know people that Argent had a retail operation that was doing that. I can't remember what that company was. I still know some people that are still in the business after doing what you did. Most of them are gone, whether it was because that environment was such crap or because the 07, 08 recession kicked the shit out of them, whatever the case may be. But there were definitely a bunch of people that identified in that space and have gone through, cut their teeth on a number of different levels and came through the other side smelling like a rose. And now you get this environment where we all know you're dressed up today because you have a collar on.
Most definitely. This is formal attire.
Absolutely. And I get it, me too, that you're really only working with people you know and like, people you want to work with, people you want to help. Obviously, the environment is very different. The products, the rates, fees, costs, all of that kind of stuff is very, very different. But yeah, I would be happy to say to anybody that's been doing this as long as we have that if you're still doing it, you've seen some shit, you've come through the other side. And for those of us doing it now, I know that there's an awful lot of concern in the industry about rates, about inventory, about just business in general, markets in general, MBS and real estate markets. But I don't think anybody who's got that kind of a tenure is concerned.
No, I've seen we've worked in four different markets in 20 years, 4 completely different markets.
And through some tough times.
Yeah. So it's another cycle. It'll change. There's equilibrium in every one of them. And there's winners and not so much winners in every one of them. So
I think we're going to see some losers in the coming years. What do you think that looks like? What do you think the changes to the MBS and on the mortgage side and the inventory issues on the real estate side do for those populations? I mean, it's hard to judge with the real estate community because, NAR already tells us that 80% are gone in the first 2 years anyway. So does the same, 80-20 rule apply? Do we accelerate it? But I think mortgage lending's kind of been a different animal. And of course, like we saw in 07, 08, yeah, a ton of mortgage people got out of the business. Tons. So, yeah, it was a different animal. There was a smaller pie, but we were all getting bigger pieces of it.
Right. Yeah, I think there'll be an exodus from both again. Once the last couple of years in mortgage has been easy. It's been the market, not the originator. Just you can't lose. And which there was a year, I want to say 2005, that I spent most of the summer at the Del Mar racetrack here in San Diego. And I got more refinances that summer than I knew what to do with. And it was just from talking to people. What do you do? Oh, I do mortgage. Oh, really? I have a such and such. Can you help me out? Yes. And it was a couple a day that I was getting from going to the racetrack and, being out in the sun instead of under fluorescent lights. So
in a cubicle.
Right.
In a shirt and tie.
Yeah. So it, and at that point I was already in a broker shop. We're getting a call on the MBS market right now. So I was already a broker shop at that point, had cycled out and had the freedom. But yeah, it's one of those things that now there's going to be a whole lot less. The refinance stuff mostly is going to be gone. There's still going to be room for debt consolidation. A lot of people, it seems like, are doing cash out because instead of moving to a place
that you can't find anyway.
Right. So the traditional move up home is so much more expensive that even though the place that we live in is worth that much more, the payment shock in going up, property taxes tripling or quadrupling.
Well, and 50 other people want that same house.
Right. So people are going to be doing cash out for home improvements, doing additions, or just making their space nicer.
Yep.
So there'll still be some refi business. It's not going to be how much can I save every month? I want to lower my payment.
Well, and it's always going to be there. We're always going to have people are always going to be paying 20% on credit cards or distancing themselves from major credit issues. I finally hit that 4 years since my bankruptcy. Whatever the case may be, there's always going to be that element.
Right. And just like the need to turn over a house, the old death, disability, divorce, there's those things happen. It's just at a much lower rate than what we've been seeing with everything else moving right now. Those three things don't change. We've got the same death, disability, and divorce rates that are constant through all markets. So those properties always come up, or those are times when people need to refinance or restructure. But it's all the lowering rate environment is over, everybody's saying. So, or I should say that the experts are saying. So we have to assume that that's the truth.
There's a lot of that. I'm not gonna argue.
Yeah. So for properties, I mean, supply and demand is just completely out of whack. The beauty of the real estate market is also the bad part of the real estate market is it's a purely supply and demand driven thing, which one of very few, that if there's more people trying to buy and there's only so many things, prices are going to go up and it's going to be harder to get. If there's a bunch of properties on the market and not a lot of people looking for them, then prices go down. So the question now is, with rates going up, is there still going to be that many people fighting for those homes, and how long does it take for that equal?
Did we lose Joe, Jen?
To hit.
There we go. Joe's got a janky internet connection, so you guys will have to bear with him there. But yeah, I agree. However, Joe, I think that what we're describing when we talk about the existing supply and demand issue on the real estate side, I think the bigger issue is the supply. I mean, we can do things to curb the demand, like raise interest rates. Heck, we even tried a plague, right? Didn't work.
Right.
Maybe we're getting close to trying a world war. I still don't think that's going to work. I think we've got kind of this perfect storm of things going on. Some of them have been going on a long, long time. Like culturally, we don't do nuclear living. We don't do multi-generational living. We all want our own space. I'm guilty. I want my own place, and I have more than just my one place. And that's, but Asians, Europeans, a lot of those cultures do multi-generational living. We have this enormous population, the biggest ever and the biggest existing in the baby boomers that are living longer. They're staying in their homes longer, so there isn't that turnover. Then we've got the Jenn Wayboers of the world, her generation, the second biggest on the planet in the millennials, are all now of home buying age. So I really think the issue is the demand, or excuse me, the supply, and not the demand.
So do we build our way out of it? Is that the move? Is there just needs to be more built? Are people but people are leaving the urban centers.
But that's another piece of the puzzle. If you go look at the stats the builders have put up in the last 10 years, 20 years, they are not building it anywhere near the clip they used to.
Right.
So we've just got this perfect storm driving this supply issue right now. Yeah, maybe we curb the demand a little. We jack up the rates. I don't even know what else there really is to do, but I don't think it solves the problem. I think it scratches the surface of the problem. I think the majority of the problem is lying in the supply and not in the demand.
Right.
So yeah. I don't know. This is going to take a room full of people much smarter than Jen and Joe and I to solve, for those of you listening. So don't expect any kind of monumental revelation about how we're going to fix the supply and demand issue in the housing market anytime soon. But from what I've looked at thus far, statistically, just over the last couple of months, just this year, at the rate we're turning over homes, at the rate we're building homes, at the rate the population is building, so on and so forth, this is going to continue for about 20 years. Minimum. So we're at a 20-year minimum of getting this problem back towards a balanced market. And I don't think that we'll see a buyer's market, and certainly not in my career, and probably not in my lifetime.
Wow. I didn't. So what you were looking at this morning showed that it was that far behind. We were that far behind.
Well, it hasn't just been this morning, but we looked at what Goldman Sachs put out at the beginning of the year for what we expect home prices to do, home values to do. And we looked at some stats on what we expect builders to do, even if they ramp up production over the next couple of years, the next couple of decades, excuse me. But, it's funny because human nature, we've got this real problem where we know that if we want to get out of a hole, the first thing we have to do is quit digging. We just can't seem to quit digging. But, that's got to be the first step in any process when you want to get out of a hole. And humans are hard to get through on that process. So, yeah, it looks like, and again, I'm no expert. I am not a stats analyst by any means. But from what I can tell, we're probably talking about 20 years before we start shifting back towards a balanced market. That this could continue. And the major metropolitan areas are looking at a 20% increase in value this year. And I figured home values would double over 10 years. Now we're talking about home values doubling over 5 years. Right? At 20% a year. So if you bought a house today, could it be worth 4 times what you paid over the course of 20 years? I don't know. The statistics make it seem possible.
That's crazy.
Despite the fucking lunacy that actually defines.
Yeah, here in San Diego, stuff's over 4 times what it was 20 years ago, I'm sure.
Okay, well, there you have it. So
you're at least there.
Be unrealistic. Yeah. So I want for the consumer, especially anybody who's interested in buying a home, like Jen, she, figured this out over the last year, that buy it now, even if you don't love it, even if it's a shitty commute. And Jen, it's going to be a shitty commute. If that house doubles in value and you can pocket $300,000, well, more because you'll pay your loan down, etc. Then boy, what a down payment on another house in the future.
And not to mention the rentals. That was one of my big questions in my house shopping. The rentals in the area where I'm looking at are going for almost $2,000 a month. That's a hell of a lot more than my mortgage is going to be.
Yeah, well, the affordability index for owning versus renting has been pretty heavily weighted on owning for quite a long time now. Probably not since Joe was selling shit at 10% with 7 points. Would it make more sense to rent?
Yeah, it's a little different now.
Yeah,
but I just mean the ability to rent it out in a couple years.
Yeah, that exists as well. Yeah, nobody ever got wealthy without owning real estate. There's just and don't get me wrong, I'm not wealthy. Joe's not wealthy. Don't let his 8 vehicles fool you, because they're all shit boxes, including his old Suzuki Samurai. Yeah, that kind of thing. And I'm on the same page. But the ability to use home ownership, real estate ownership, to propel your finances forward, to propel your living situation forward, to real retirement in a little closer, I don't think it can be beat. And certainly right now, for somebody Jenn's age, I mean, if that property quadruples in value in the time frame Jenn would even be considering retiring, early 30s to early 50s, right? Then
retirement.
I know, right? But if your $300,000 townhome is worth $1.2 million, you've paid off the loan, there's $1 million plus in cash just sitting there that will help you do other things like invest. Money makes money, right? So, yeah, I think it's a big deal. And I think Jenn's the prime example. And hopefully everybody in our audience, Joe's audience, and hopefully Joe will spread this word. We'll see how poorly the podcast actually comes off when we're done with them, if we even want to share it with people. But literally, if you can educate, which is what we're supposed to do, the consumer, as to how important it may be to buy a home right now, even if you don't love it, suck it up for a couple of years. It's still going to be better than renting. And if you could make 20% a year on that investment for a couple of few years, and then use that money to propel your living situation, your finances, your investments forward, then please do it. Yeah. All right. Let's get back to the lecture at hand.
Adam's soapbox.
I am on a soapbox the last couple of years about this shit for sure. But let's talk about Joe, because I find him to be unbelievably sexy. So what does it look like now, Joe? How many LOs? How much support staff? What does your team structure look like these days?
So we have kind of an untraditional team.
I would agree. I think mine's untraditional, and yours makes mine pale.
Yeah, so we use mostly contract processing. Depending on the loan officer, they can or may not have an admin in-house in their office. Contract processing, loan officers originate loans, send them to contract their processors once the file's stacked and documentation's in, and that's pretty much it. A few of our branches have the front desk and who's an admin person. There's nobody just getting a door. An admin person. I use somebody for back-end accounting for the brokerage, bringing in just logging checks and audit packs kind of thing. Everything else is pretty much, we're all self-sufficient, seasoned loan officers that just pretty much work our database, referral sources, and keep relations up and do loans. So there's not much of a production machine. It's just the individuals that are with us that are the machine. Each loan originator is kind of a team to themselves.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I would certainly say that your model is pretty unique, although, and ours is too. And I think if we look back at that first role you had, the cubicle role, and mine was like that too, although wholesale, not retail. I was with a brokerage. I had an office, not a cubicle. I was big shot. But yeah, I was given, a desk and a computer and a copy of the LOS. That's the loan origination software, and a cold call list and a pat on the bottom. Good luck, kid.
But
kind of thing was
that
how
was
it
it.
went.
Yeah, these people, I was given a list. Half of these people own homes, and half of them need you to help them. Start calling. 100 a day.
100 a day.
100 a
Yeah,
day.
I don't remember if there were any quotas or anything to that effect, but yeah, it was essentially a cold calling sales job 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh man, have we come a long way? Thank God it's becoming an arena where it's about helping people and watching out for their dollars and building friendships and relationships and that kind of thing. What a
That's
different arena.
yeah, the only staying power. I mean, that's the only way to maintain in the business is just making a personal relationship with all your clients, turning clients into friends, friends into clients, and then you wind up getting referred out. I mean, that's all of none of our people advertise. None of us, if you said what percentage is advertising of the business, it couldn't be 5%.
I'd be surprised if it was anything other than zero.
Yeah,
You're not buying bus benches, grocery carts, spending money on flyers, postcards.
none of it. And if
you're not
anything,
buying any leads.
Right. If anything, it's just kind of sponsorship for the kids' sports teams and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's about the sponsorship because, I mean, I've never gotten a call that said, "Yeah, we saw your banner at the T-ball field, so we're giving you a call."
Right.
So
that's true.
Yeah, it's just about getting the jerseys paid for. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really, and that pace is unsustainable anyway, even if it did work. But who's going to just talk to somebody that's calling out of the blue about a mortgage today? Because it's a different world than it was 20 years ago. But even working leads or internet leads or whatever, if you were just calling those every day, you probably burn out before you started. Or pretty close.
You'd be miserable.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, we come across a lot of people because of JTT that are doing that.
Really?
Oh man. Yeah, I've got one in mind right now, and yeah, there are a couple. One that we've worked with, he was good at working leads. If you gave him a lead, he would work it.
Oh.
But he didn't know how to get leads.
Right.
And there's a serious mental block in there. There is. It's weird. The other one, this guy he's been working leads, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever, or doing some kind of marketing agreement with a real estate agent, whatever the case may be. But it's not people he knows. It's not people that found him through organic channels like this. It's not people that consume his content. He's really not doing much in the way of content. And you're right. He is miserable. He says to me, "I hate this business." I'm like, "No, you don't. You hate the way you're doing this business. If every single person whose file was on your desk was a friend of yours, a family member, was referred to you by one of those two, whatever the case may be, you would love helping these people. You would love taking care of these people. You would love interjecting yourself into a situation that's going to make an enormous lifelong financial impact for them." Yeah, but you're not. You're working a bunch of fucking Zillow leads, people you don't know that are shopping you around, that don't trust you, that don't trust your process, that don't do what you ask them to when you ask them to do it, and it's a nightmare.
Exactly.
It's an awful way to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe, they're out there, buddy. And the one I'm thinking of, this guy's been at it for I can't even remember, but I want to say at least like 7 years.
See, at that point, I mean, one of my guys, Paul Johnson, he his thing is get a couple hundred people that you like and that like you in your database, love on them, and you can make a career out of helping them and their friends and referrals.
Sure.
What you need is a couple hundred people that there's a mutual like for each other, trust with each other, and take care of them, and they'll take care of you forever. That's a full career.
Right. Well, and let's understand for everybody out there that 200 grows to 400 and eventually to 800. I think our contact database right now is like 15 or 16,000. But again, 20 years, right? Of building that up. And I can't remember what the adage is, but it's something like you should be able to get a deal per month for every 100 people in your contact database. So if it's only 200 people and you're only doing 2 deals a month, guess what? That's the start of a pretty lustrous career.
Yeah, then you've got a bunch more time on your hands also to add more names on that list.
Build that audience. Guess what? When it's 400, now it's 50 deals a year. When it's 800, it's 100 deals a year. And I've got news for all of you listening. 100 deals a year is like top 1%er. You are a top producer. I don't care if you're a real estate agent or an LO, doing 100 deals a year. Yeah, and it wouldn't be all that hard or take all that long to do it. All right. I spent an awful lot of our half hour here on my soapbox. I'm sorry, but it's Joe. We'll do it again.
And I don't have headphones, so I'm lagging behind a little bit. So I should have been prepped for the headphones. For next time, I'll have some headphones.
I took the boys when they were little to the monster truck thing. The Hot Wheels. I can't remember what is that brand? The Hot Wheels monster trucks. In any case, where you get to see Bigfoot and the grave digger.
There we go.
Okay, now and they each got these earmuffs because it's so loud there that look like giant tractor tires.
Oh man!
So I'm gonna get you a pair of those and just tape a string to it.
Yeah, and I'll put some earbuds inside
of them. That's funny.
It'll be perfect.
Jen, get Joe booked for another show, and we'll let Joe talk more about Joe.
We will do that. It'll be next year, Joe. We are booking end of May of 23 right now.
No, nice.
So, yeah.
23. Yeah. Oh my
23.
God. Time to get ready.
Yeah, right? You'll have time to get ready. Yeah.
Time to get headphones.
You'll be able to shower that day for sure.
Yeah, I'm due. I am definitely due.
We'll put it in your calendar now. Take shower in May of 23. That's crazy. All right, Jen, since I know I didn't miss anything that I wanted to say.
Oh, boy.
Maybe you should see if there's anything else you want to know from Joe or about Joe. You don't want to know anything about Joe. Don't open that Pandora's box.
I just want Joe to show up to Mile High Mastermind this year. That's what I want.
I will be there this year.
All right.
No excuses. Well, and if I'm not, I'll still pay for it. So, good stuff.
You do buy a ticket every year.
Yeah, every year.
The streak, one way or the other, the streak will not be broken. I will pay for Mastermind this year.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'd give you the ticket for free if we could actually get you to show up.
I'm there. I am there.
All right. Nice. Jen, take us home. I can't do any more, Joe.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. If you want to find out more about us, you can text TIPS, TIPS, to 63566. That was a dog shaking in the background. It will ping you back everything.
I resent that comment.
It was Raja, not you this time. Oh, God. It's going to be one of those weeks. You can find out everything about us, past episodes of the show, weekly little tip. You can get a copy of Adam's book, Just the Tips. Social Media Day Denver tickets are going on sale this week. That event is Thursday, June 30th at Metro State University. Full day of social media content. And Mile High Mastermind tickets will be going on sale before too terribly long. That one is September 16 and 17 at the University of Denver. So all of that event info you can get by texting TIPS to 63566. You can also book a free hour of coaching with us so you can get more of this chaos for a whole hour with just you.
We might let Joe participate in that.
Right. We'll just let Joe come on.
Absolutely. There are all kinds of people that way. Well, thanks, Joe. I know that this was sort of short notice compared to people that are working with us in May of 23, right?
Yeah.
14 months out. And yeah, I know it's hard to carve out this kind of time early on a Monday morning. I do appreciate it. Glad that we were finally able to do this. And yeah, God, it's been a long time since we've seen you.
Yeah, for sure. Glad to be on. And yeah, it's an hour. I'm an hour before you, so I'm still shaking the cobwebs of the weekend off, but glad to be here and good chat for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, guys.
Have a good week, everybody.